Lucy Little described Christmas dinner at Eldon House very much like Dickens' Christmas Carol. And of course, the Christmas Carol is very big in London these days.
And we're very fortunate to have the man who has really brought the Christmas Carol to life in London over the past month, and right on into January, we understand, Barry Morse.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Carol.
Tell us the story of the Christmas Carol, won't
All
you?
right. I will. I'll try and encapsulate the whole thing in about 5 minutes.
Terrific.
I'm not sure if it's ever been done, but I'll give it a whirl.
Thank you very much.
Bless you. Yes, what I'm going to try and do is to tell the story of A Christmas Carol with a few fragments of it read to you in about 5 minutes, just as I would if my own children or my own grandchildren were gathered around me in this room, and as I hope some of you are now. Well, A Christmas Carol, the famous old story, perhaps the most famous of all Christmas stories since the original Christmas story, was written about 140 years ago and is all about a rascally old miser named Ebenezer Scrooge. And all he cares about is work, business, making money. Dickens describes him. He was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner, hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel had ever struck out generous fire, secret and self-contained and as solitary as an oyster. But then, one night just before Christmas, he's visited by the first of several ghosts, the ghost of his deceased partner, Jacob Marley. And Jacob tells him that in the next 3 nights he's going to be visited by 3 more ghosts. The first, the ghost, the spirit of Christmas past. And that spirit comes and shows him his own past, shows him of how joyous and happy a time Christmas was for him when he was a young fellow. Shows him how, as a little boy, he was at a boarding school feeling very lonely, but very much comforted by the cheer of Christmas around him and the visits of his sister. And then the second night, he's visited by a second ghost, the ghost of Christmas present. And the ghost of Christmas present takes him all over the world and shows him how, in different parts of the world, at this time of year, just like now, all sorts of people are celebrating Christmas. He sees how his own poor office worker, Bob Cratchit, his clerk, who, although he's only paid a miserly salary, manages with this tiny amount of money to be very happy and to celebrate Christmas very joyfully. And Scrooge is amazed that somebody with so little can have such a joyous time in the spirit of Christmas. He sees, too, how in other parts of the world, not too far away, and we know about that, don't we? How in other parts of the world, not too far away, other people are suffering terrible dangers and deprivations and hardships, and how even at this joyous time of year there are little ones, children, suffering from malnutrition and starvation. He sees, Scrooge does, how Bob Cratchit's little boy, Tiny Tim, who is a crippled child, has to walk with a crutch, and he begins to fear that this charming, delightful, lovable little boy may not live to be a grown-up. And so Scrooge begins to worry about his own attitude to life. And now finally comes the ghost of Christmas future, the ghost of Christmas yet to come. And he shows Scrooge what yet may happen in the world. He shows him eventually his own grave in a deserted corner of a churchyard where there are weeds growing, overgrown, broken down. And Scrooge realizes that this is only something that may be. It's not anything that has to be, provided he revises his own ideas about Christmas, provided he starts to think again about what Christmas is really like. And so Scrooge finally says, when he's frightened enough, he says, I will keep Christmas in my heart, and I will strive to keep it all the year. The spirits of the past, the present, and the future will strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons I have learned. And so he becomes a new man, because he realizes that Christmas is something which can be maintained and should be maintained all the year round. The end of the story goes like this. Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he became a second father He became as good a friend as the good old city ever knew. Some people laughed to see the change in him, but he let them laugh and never heeded them, for he was wise enough to know that some people will always have their fill of laughter at the outset. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, and as is our wish to you at this time and at all times, we wish you Tiny Tim's wish. God bless us, everyone.